Okay, folks. So, wanted to touch on a topic that I think is really important. I did a video, and of course, I can do this because the girls are gone. So, Noelle is taking them to a Chisuk event downtown at the Pantages, or excuse me, whatever you want to call it. And so that means that I'm home alone. And so it's a wonderful way to spend your Friday afternoon. And I'm also drinking this. But I can't tell you the name that I have called it. It's actually a creation of two different things. So yeah, Noel came up with the name, and it's actually pretty good for the beer. So it's a combination. But anyway, that's not what this video is really about. But it is about the what it takes to actually live in downtown Tacoma. I did a video talking about one of the best places in the city to live is downtown, and I still stick with that. I don't change my point of view on that because it's just a lot easier to get around. And then when you think about it, there's so much to do down there, and there's a lot of options to choose from. Now comes the cost. I was reading in the newspaper, and it says that the average couple basically makes about 120. The average household makes about 120 something thousand dollars a year in Seattle. The average household with kids is $200,000 a year. That's the average. And I think it said there's like 60,000 families or 60,000 households that were over that $120,000 a year. So that gives you an idea of how much money is actually in Seattle and what people can actually afford. So when you think about the cost of apartments and you think about how much it takes to live there, a lot of folks scratch their heads and they're like, I can't afford it. So it gives you an idea why Tacoma is a lot more of, you get more bang for your buck. Yeah, I'm still going to kind of say something similar. I think that for Tacoma, you can make it here if you are just yourself. You could easily make it here on $45,000 a year, easily. If it's a couple, I would say you probably would do good at $80,000 a year. And by doing good, I mean that basically you have a car you can afford, because you have to pay for parking in a lot of places. And I'm only talking about renting. I'm not talking about buying a house. But $80,000, you probably do pretty good. And even if you were to try to get a home, I think you would be all right with that, right? Excuse me, the beer. You wouldn't have too much of an issue. However, if you have children, think about that, because daycare, if there's two people working, daycare is going to kill you. It's expensive. It's not as bad as what it is up in Seattle, but it is pricey, something you have to consider. So with that, I would say you would do well $80,000 to $100,000 if you had a kid or two. And I think you would do good. Living downtown, I think, is going to still give you more bang for your buck, especially with everything that's going on down there. McMenavins, and I told some friends that were here visiting, I told them about McMenavins should be the place that they stay next time they come. Because things like McMenavins, you have supposedly, if Surge Tacoma does what they're supposed to do, that's going to be a pretty cool deal. Top Golf, you have a lot of entertainment options. The Dome by itself has a lot of events that go on throughout the year. You have a ton of museums and arts and things like that you can actually do. And so you have the Farmers Market, which is always right downtown on Broadway. So there's so much that you can actually do downtown, and it's very family oriented, right? Tacoma's really into families. One of the things that it does lack, however, are restaurants. It lacks restaurants. I mean, there's some down there, don't get me wrong. There's restaurants that are down there, but it lacks the number of restaurants. It lacks that. It does lack a grocery store. There's one in when you leave downtown a little bit. It's in the Stadium District, but it's a thriftway. It's kind of hoity-toity a little bit. So, but there's no large-scale grocery store. Now, if the town center actually gets developed and completed, then they could possibly have a grocery store down there, which I think would be the best thing. Yeah, it'd be great to have a movie theater. I think that would be cool, but I think the city should work towards that later. And a grocery store is severely needed. Um, just in my opinion. I think a lot of people kind of agree with that a grocery store is one of the key elements that's missing downtown. We did have one down there, and it closed just because there wasn't enough people that were going to utilize it. Now that there's so much apartment construction going on and a lot of renovations going on, I think it's the perfect time to get a grocery store. Probably in the next couple of years, be perfect time. But living downtown offers a lot more for you than other parts of the city. Other parts of the city, you have to deal with navigation and getting to where you got to go. If you don't want to own a car, because our friends and I were talking, they mentioned they don't know if they want to own a car, and this is mainly for people who are moving here. This isn't necessarily for people who are from here or whatever, but people moving here. You could do well without a car. You could easily do well without a car if you live in downtown Tacoma. If you live outside of downtown, I would say you would definitely have to have a car. A small commuter car at least. Because just relying on bus only is going to be a headache, and it's going to get old after a while. Downtown is very walkable, and with Line Bike now, if you saw the earlier post that we did, with Line Bike being downtown, that is helpful because a lot of apartment places don't have enough parking for their apartments. And the city doesn't require them to do so. And the city kind of encourages developers to develop as much as they can. And parking is really not something that is on the list for as far as the city is concerned. Their main goal is what can you offer? How well can you offer it? They want people downtown. It just makes sense. So with that said, I think that downtown is still one of the best places. Given that there are so many different projects going on, I'd say probably in 2 years, there would be a much clearer picture as to what's going to be available and what areas of downtown are going to be the best places to live. Because the Dome District is cool, but there's not a lot out there for right now, other than the Dome and other than transit, because that's where the main transit hub is. So that's cool, but really there's not a lot over there as of yet. But if Top Golf comes, you're going to have a lot of stuff there. Then you have the Brewery District, which, of course, they're building brewery blocks. That's a pretty awesome project, and they're really moving forward on that. But there's also other places, too. The town center, once they finally complete that, it's going to be a lot of apartments there. So you have a lot more activity in that area. You're close to, UWT. You're close to the museums right in that spot. So and you got a lot of shopping right in there. So that's kind of a cool place. There is Hilltop. Hilltop is going to be developed pretty quickly, I think, especially once the light rail is done. But when you talk about the areas where there's vacant lots and buildings that are underutilized, Hilltop has a lot of those. And they're much more affordable. So I see that as being the next up-and-coming area, too. There's issues with gentrification, so it depends on how you feel about that. Some people are like, a deal's a deal, so if it's a good enough price, then might as well. But other folks kind of consider that and probably would choose a different location. But change is going to come, and it comes all the time. I mean, there's a lot of people being pushed out of the city. They've been pushed out of Seattle, and some folks are being pushed out of Tacoma. I know of 2 families close by to us that are being pushed out. One's due to something else, but the other is due to rent going up, and so they can't afford it. So they're literally being pushed out, and that happens often, right? You have some property owners who may raise the rent up a little bit. I mean, we own property. I haven't raised rent in 2 years. I could, but I don't. But you have some people here who will raise rent every year. And if you're month to month, that's even worse because you don't know what's going to happen. But it's pushing people out. Downtown is really gentrified. Hilltop, all of that, really gentrified. When you talk about the Stadium District is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool area, pretty trendy area. You have a lot of, it's where the only drugstore is downtown, to my understanding, only pharmacy, the only grocery store, larger scale grocery store. There's a lot of mid-rise construction there. You have a lot of amenities over there, parks and stuff like that. So it offers an alternative. You have some housing that's along the waterfront right across from downtown. Some of those apartments are available too. And those are appealing because you're kind of away from everything, right? You're right on the water. You're kind of away from some of the hustle and bustle of, I mean, if you can consider Tacoma having hustle and bustle, you're kind of away from that. But you're still kind of close to everything too. You're able to walk literally from there over. I mean, it's a little bit of a walk, but you can walk all the way over into downtown. And then other than that, everything else is kind of, a toss-up. But I would say those are the key areas. You have basically, and this is where I would rank them if I was choosing someplace to live. I would want to live probably in the Brewery District. I don't know what the area is called over there by McMenavins. If that's it could be Park Stadium. I don't know. If anyone knows, put that down in the comment section. But where the Spanish Steps and all of that is, I don't know what that's called. That's a good area to consider too. But that's kind of a party area. And I only say that because you have a lot of bars and stuff right in that area. So if you're into that, cool. But me, I would stay clear of it because, especially if you have kids, only because you can easily get to that location. It's not hard. I mean, the light rail will take you there. Downtown's easily walkable. With Line Bike, you can easily take a quick 15-minute trip, if that, 10-minute trip. And that means going all the way from, I don't know, on the other side of UW-T all the way down. It would probably take maybe 10 minutes. So you can live a little bit away from where all the action is, even if you're a big partier. But I would say in order for me, it would be the Brewery District, somewhere around in there. Number 2 would be the Dome District because you're kind of away from everything. You're close to transit, and there are some restaurants and some bars and things like that, but it's not overwhelming. It's probably going to be a really amped up, crazy place later. Then I would probably choose the Stadium District because it has a lot of, it's going to be pricier, but it has a lot of cool stuff over there, a lot of parks and things like that. And then I would say the waterfront would probably be my final choice if I were going to choose. So I would say definitely Brewery District, right there a little bit over from UW-T and up. Hilltop I would put at the very last, only because I don't want to be one of the people that helps push other people out. I've done that already, but I don't want to push people out that has traditionally been there forever. I mean, it's going to happen, obviously, and a lot of people are. It's one of those things that's really been a contentious issue here. A lot of people are not really feeling that. Some people are happy for it because that community has suffered for a long time. But anyway, I'm just rambling now. I'm a little sleepy. So I'm going to finish up my beer here. I'm going to probably go take a shower and relax. Hope you guys are having a great Friday because I am. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.